I was going to say something. We got
Well,
15 minutes.
I know we talked a long time.
It's okay. I had said last week that we will either get through the rest of chapter 4 or we will just do part of chapter 4. So I think it's going to be the first part of chapter 4 kind of week, and that's okay. That'll give us time to end well instead of rushing to get through a larger chunk in one day. So could we have someone read verses 1 through 9 in chapter 4?
I'll give it a shot.
I could. Okay.
If you want to do it, please.
I think this happened last week, and I think Tom took it last week. So why don't you take it this week, Leslie?
Or Leslie.
Okay, I'm going to read it out of the New Living Translation.
Okay.
If I have both the NRSV open, but anyway, the and this one has larger print.
Oh, I got my new glasses, and they're wonderful.
Good.
Glad to hear it.
Okay. This section is called Words of Encouragement. Now I appeal to Eodia and Syntyche. Please, because you belong to the Lord, settle your disagreement. And I ask you, my true partner, to help these two women, for they worked hard with me in telling others the good news. They worked along with Clement and the rest of my coworkers, whose names are written in the book of life. Always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Let everyone see that you are considerate in all you do. Remember, the Lord is coming soon. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just love that last part where it's talking about this, what we are to fix our minds on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I have a special
thought.
Right.
I have a special love of verse 8 because it is the motto of Northwestern University.
It sounded slightly permanent.
What a Notre Dame?
Is it also at Notre Dame?
No, but okay. What about Notre Dame?
I don't know.
Heck with them.
I didn't go to Notre Dame. I went to Northwestern.
I know.
But I always get excited when it comes up in the lectionary, and I say to myself,
Very
"Go
cool.
Goats!" But I do. I think it's lovely.
Awesome.
Not sure that made it down to the Gold Coast campus, which is where I was.
That's fair.
There's just picture eyes on the lake and
just push through.
sorry. Little joke there.
For me, the verse I like is 6. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this Bible app that I'm reading this off of, and you can add prayers to it, and it's one I read every day. And when things like with Jackie are going bad, I read that, and it just always calms me. I mean, I may get anxious again, but it calms me down when I read it. And I find that such a good verse.
It's such a good verse.
Mm-hmm.
I like the part where it says, let your gentleness be evident to all.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I feel like we're trying to push things to happen. And people, I feel like maybe the fire and brimstone folks could read that again. People don't always evangelize with gentleness. And I love that that's what Paul's saying.
Yes.
I like 7. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's, the whole thing is good.
So
that,
don't be anxious. He loves us anyway.
that is often a blessing that's given at the end of services is may the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, be with you.
I know. I've seen it.
Mhm.
And there, wish I could be wearing the t-shirt.
Yeah.
And the moderation.
Mm.
Moderation in all things. In
Mm.
anger, in love.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that transcends understanding part I really like, because there's times where like there is no way you can look at the facts of the situation I'm in and decide there's any peace to be had,
That's a very
right?
good choice.
Logically.
Yeah.
And however, through God, you can still find peace, even though you can't understand why. And I just love that. It doesn't have to make sense. You can still have some peace, which is a miracle, right?
Yeah, yeah, love itself.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Um, well, first I want to say we've finally gotten to the part where I know Leslie was very interested in reading this this epistle because of the focus on joy, and I feel like we're finally talking about it, Leslie.
Yeah, that I didn't remember when we read this when I've read this before that the word joy doesn't show up until the fourth chapter.
Oh, it is in there otherwise. We just have focused on other things for whatever reason. There is joy at other places, but it's just abundant in this last chapter.
We're talking about rejoice in the Lord, and then as Charity said, let your gentleness be known to everyone. Yeah, that really speaks right now, and the emphasis on prayer and peace, and the peace that passes all understanding. Those are really good words for me and for our world right now, and in the situation we find ourselves in. Of course, peace doesn't mean inaction or passivity. They're things that think they're things we need to be doing, but if we can do them with a spirit of peace, and that's difficult for me because when bad things are going, I tend to get all excited and bent out of shape. I know how to worry, boy. But those are good words that in our actions, in our attempt to work for justice, we don't need to do it with anger or hostility or impatience towards others, but we can do it with the fact that God is a God of peace and that He can give us a peace. And maybe we need to realize when we're not peaceful, maybe we're not going the same direction God is. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, this is helpful to me. I need to maybe keep this right at hand so when I'm reading something or watching the news and I see all this confrontation arising right away, realize, well, this may not be um, this may not be of God when we're getting involved in this kind of back and forth and stuff. We need to keep in mind that this is not the way that God works. He doesn't work through confrontation, anger.
He seemed pretty vengeful in the Old Testament.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dawn. But I think that maybe the Old Testament is people in times of anxiety and problems were trying to understand what was going on. And sometimes I think they're crediting God with anger and wrath and doing these things when maybe it wasn't so much God as it was them and those around them.
Their
That,
own actions because they have free will.
yeah, and that's kind of where I come from on that. I don't know how Brian feels, but I think the Old Testament is the God's people trying to come to an understanding of God, and I don't think they really came to an understanding of what God was like until he expressed himself in Jesus. But that's my opinion. So I think we have to look at some of the stuff that's going on in the Old Testament as people struggling to tell their story, struggling to deal with, and they didn't have the example of Jesus. They didn't have the
Right. They didn't know why it could only be God doing this to us.
exactly, and an evolving understanding of what God is really like. I think that's right, Don. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, because when really terrible things happen, the first question we always ask ourselves is, why is this happening to me? And so I think a large part of the Hebrew Bible is people who have gone through some really, really horrible things, trying to understand how could this possibly have happened to them. And the belief is that they or someone else did something wrong and God is punishing them for it. And if you understand God as controlling all things on that very specific level, that's the only thing that makes sense. I think many of us today have a different understanding that it is our actions that cause a lot of these things. Not all of them. Some of it's suffering is always going to be a mystery.
Right.
But I think
Well,
we have
and go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was about done anyway.
I thought didn't we read something about if something bad happens to you, it's not God because God loves you and doesn't want bad things to happen to you?
Yeah,
Oh,
I understand yes, there are passages that are similar to that, Don, but in the context of the Old Testament, they didn't understand that yet. The worldview of what God was like, what he could be like, was different, and
Right. I
it's an
understand.
evolving process. And we come from a position right now where the process has evolved to the point that we see Jesus, and Jesus represents God and the kind of love God has. And even after that, we see the movement of the Spirit. And I just think this is a view we can have of God, but it's very hard to keep that in mind all the time because we are anxious and we see bad things happening and we're still looking for explanations. And a lot of people are very comfortable. They want a God that's going to control everything because then they think, well, it's not so important what I do or you do or anything. God's going to step in like a Greek God, like Deus ex machina, and just fix things. But I think we come to understand that that's not necessarily the way God works. God works through us, and we have
He's
great.
going to let us take responsibility for our actions.
Yes, yes, and I think, yeah, I agree with that. And they just didn't have that understanding. They didn't have a clear understanding of that when Jesus was on earth either. I'm not sure we always have a clear understanding. It's hard for me to keep that in mind, and there are others who don't hold that view of God and the world. And I think it's hard to have peace in that kind of with that kind of a mindset, but that's my opinion.
I will say it is a little bit of an oversimplification to say that the Hebrew Bible says that in general has a wrathful God. I cannot pull to mind the where exactly it is, but there is the passage. It had been previously said that the parents ate sour grapes and set the children's teeth on edge. That is not in the New Testament, or that is a Hebrew Bible passage, and it says no, God does not act that way. It is not the sins of the parents that cause the suffering of the children. God is this. This is a God of mercy, despite what has been said about other gods and what has been said in the past. So already those ideas were changing even by the time the Hebrew Bible was being written. So it's in there, and I always try to be
Well,
careful about that.
I
there
agree,
was an
Brian.
evolving faith of evolving theology that they were getting throughout the earlier part of the Old Testament to later on, when you get
Well, and
into some.
also there's a prophetic tradition that's a different tradition. I was just trying to say that in the culture that it wasn't the mainstream view. There was a prophetic tradition that did that, and it was something that, and I think in part of it is too what you say, Brian, is very true. That in a lot of cases, God reveals Himself to be this way, gracious and loving, but then it's very hard for the people to understand that, and so that they kind of fall back on their old understandings. It's who was it that said anyway that the Bible is this process of God reveals His grace and His love, and then other people come behind and they begin to ameliorate it, and because they can't understand it, they can't grasp it. It's a constant process, and gradually. Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly who said that, but anyway, it's not. I guess it's not that important. It's that the Irish Catholic priest that anyway, Cross Dominic Crossan. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. He says that's the pattern you see throughout the Bible is that God reveals His grace and love, and then the people react in such ways so as to make it less loving and gracious as then. So yeah, it's not as you say, as you point out quite rightly, that's not an overwhelming, but the idea of a wrathful God is definitely there. And I was speaking to that a lot of the wrath of God in terms of Him being extremely judgmental and things like that are things I think are people dealing with their circumstances and trying to in their world try to come up with a reason why bad things are happening to good people.
Well, and then the other, oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Don.
Brian.
Mine's entirely different. So you go ahead.
Wait a minute. Oh, doggone it. Never mind.
I totally understand that.
Oh my gosh, I hate when that happens.
Welcome to my world. Yeah.
We're all in that world.
Hey, I just turned 61. I am part of that world now.
I just didn't want us to lose the very interesting first part of this passage that talks about Yodia and Syntyche, who are co-workers of Paul, who are women who are co-workers of Paul. That he treats them as such from the very beginning of the church. Now these two women were fighting with each other for some reason that we don't know, but they were valued members, valued teachers in the community, and I think that's an important thing to point out when so much of the history of the church has not valued women.
And they used Paul to do it. So it's kind of nice to see Paul saying,
right. Yes, often the passages that are pulled out to say that women cannot be leaders in the church are from Paul.
But here he is propping up two leaders. I bet he even let them speak.
or as we
Interesting being down here that
or as we spoke about before, pseudo Paul. Anyway, so
that's also true.
What were you going to say, Dawn? You said something about down there.
Learning about the holiness tradition, and now I did it again.
Something about women being teachers or leaders in the church.
Yes, that women are not allowed to preach.
Nope.
Oh yeah.
And then I think of Jesus had women as His followers and learners, as students. That may not have been the 12 apostles, but women were present. And Mary Magdalene was a woman of wealth. And the church turned her into something else.
Yeah.
Mhm. There are some who say that Mary Magdalene was the first person to preach the Easter gospel.
Mm.
Yeah.
That would be appropriate. I didn't know that.
Because she was the first one to see and went and proclaimed that Christ was risen.
The apostle to the apostles. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
It's a shame that they write off half the population and not let women preach. And there's so many insights that women have that we don't have as guys, and it's just one of the
I
best ones.
think it goes back to the Eve thing.
To the what?
The Eve thing.
Oh, Eve.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, it's just patriarchy.
Why are women not
Patriarchy,
supposed to preach, Paul?
Yeah. What else is new?
Yeah. But
Yeah, but the Jewish tradition is very patriarchal, and it's hard for some of these writers in the New Testament, especially because they're still Jewish and they're still brought up in the same thought processes as they have always been, and it's hard to get away from that. And I think Paul is one of the worst for me when it comes to a patriarchal society.
Yeah. There are a lot of things I like about Paul. There are a lot of things that I disagree with him on.
yeah, I've struggled with Paul. So it's kind of nice to see him propping up these women,
Mhm.
saying that they're basically co-workers and they've taught right by his side.
as it should be.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. Any final thoughts before we end for the day?
Okay,
Yeah.
I was corrected.
Oh.
It's not that women can't preach, is they don't have to, because if a woman is speaking, she's filled with the Holy Spirit, people will listen.
Right, I'll take that
Okay.
one.
Because you're not supposed to be preaching. It's the Lord, the Spirit moving you to say these things.
Mm-hmm.